Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Welcome back to DreamFar podcast. I am your co-host, Daoud.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a DreamFar podcast again, of course. I'm Abdi Satufa. I'll be your co-host for tonight. And as always, the reason for this podcast is to educate about financial literacy, how to invest, especially in real estate. Yeah, welcome again. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So there's a few different points that we want to touch on. Of course, this is a real estate podcast, so we're going to always kind of talk about real estate. And what we kind of want to dive more into is how can one use real estate to build wealth in the different areas of using real estate to build wealth, whether you're working in the industry or you have like your own jobs and whatever else, and how you can also benefit from real estate. Because as we know, real estate is where you can make the most out of your investment. So let's tackle first. It's if someone is, if they're working a job or, they want to purchase a home, buy a home, where should they start? How can they achieve the idea of getting into a mortgage despite, the current market rate or the current industry, inshallah?
So to invest in real estate, I think, I believe always the first step is to buy your own primary residence. Most people, when they buy their first home, they never bought a home. They don't know the process. They don't know how to get started. They don't know how the mortgage works. So it's always good to start somewhere simple, something you understand. Let's say maybe you can buy a condo. Usually condos are, home prices are cheaper, means you can afford mortgage. Maybe you can buy a townhouse. They tend to be cheaper. And then maybe also consider something that's called house hacking, where you can buy a single family home or a duplex or multi-family home where you can live in one unit and rent the other units. This will expose you to the real estate industry and how the mortgage work. So you get to know what's behind the curtain. So that's the first way to start. And then once you own your, maybe eventually you can buy that dream home, the single family home. If you are someone, mashallah, have, make good money, have a good saving, good credit score, good saving for good down payment, and you can afford the higher mortgage. I mean, you can buy your home, primary home as the dream home. And then once you own your primary home, and then you can look into investing in real estate where there's, it's maybe short-term investment, buying and selling real estate, or, buying and renting and keeping it and create a generational wealth through time. That's another thing you can do. So to get the conventional financing, the residential financing, just to explain a little bit, you can buy up to 4 units, right? You can buy a condominium for renting and make collect the rent, the cash flow. Or you can also buy a townhouse, single family home, duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Up to 4 units, you should be able to buy using the residential financing option. Anything above 4 units, that means a building that has 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30 units, 100 units, those are in residential realm. That's totally different animal. Still, you can get those financing for that. The requirements is going to be slightly different. Usually, commercial financing is based on the property itself. Can the property pay itself? Those are different. When it comes to residential financing, you are the person that's going to be financing the property. It's going to be based on your income. Can your income pays for the mortgage? These are the two different things. But the first thing, just to summarize your question, to give you a straightforward answer, I would say buy your prime residence, and then looking to expand from there. You are a first-time home buyer. What's your plan? What do you see? How do you see yourself like getting into real estate? How do you looking to achieve your buying a home and investing in real estate?
Yeah, so as someone who's like a first-time home buyer, what I would do in that scenario is, I think, of course, it starts with your job, whatever job you are working in. And like how you mentioned a point where either you're working a job and you can get that house, whether it's like not your dream home, but something that you can build up on to get your dream home, or you go straight shot for your dream home. There's a few different factors that I would always consider. starting with that property that is not the nicest of properties, to get that, I would like because you also want to have enough cash reserves, you know, just in case of like you want to change the carpet, you want to change the roof, or whatever, if there's any other maintenance issues. But then you can also use that to negotiate, right? You can use that to negotiate and bring down the price, which can be also be an advantage. So I would look at it from that aspect as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really just deter and go away from a home that needs some fixing, because you can use that in terms of like your negotiation, if especially if you want to update the house, right?
Absolutely.
Getting the dream house, which is definitely a good option. But depending on the state that you live in, this is like around probably $700,000, $800,000 property. And these properties will cost more. You probably need to make around like $11,000 to $12,000 a month, no liabilities, to be able to get these properties. So this is also definitely a very good
Yeah.
option.
Another strategy, just to expand on what you said as well, where you raised a very good point, just to give a little bit clarification, that what you can do is you can, most people will, jump into a nice house that's really nice kitchen, big living room, updated bathroom, updated flooring, and everything is nice, right? Those homes tend to be expensive because everybody want to buy a house that's ready and move in. Nobody want to go through the construction, all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? If you're a savvy buyer, young person, I think the best strategy is to buy the worst house in a nice neighborhood. Buy the most damaged house, as long as you can get a financing for it, as long as the house is a livable condition, which is
Would you want to live in it?
that. Yeah, that's the kind of house I actually bought. When I bought it, the house was okay. It's not like I had to do a lot of remodeling, but I had to do some work. The paint work was terrible. The carpet is really bad. I actually added a bedroom into it. Before moving to the property, I already added huge equity. And that's that's one of my recommendations to our customers, to our viewers out there, is if you're looking to buy a house, always, I think my recommendation is, instead of buying a brand new home, buy a house that's really neglected. Usually those homes are sold for a cheaper price. Sometimes you can even get them off market, because sometimes they're so bad they don't even go on the market. So in that scenario, you can negotiate.
Would
Probably
you get another loan to
I'll give you a strategy.
go ahead.
I'll give you a strategy how to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. So you can actually get a residential financing for a house that is livable. That's what I was trying to say. Livable means if there's a running electricity, there's a light there, the kitchen is there, the bathroom is there, at least the house structure is there. We don't want to go into a bone, like, the house is there, but it's not good. It's not, it needs the care. We call it TLC. Like someone needs to take care of the house, right? If you buy that house, you can probably buy it below 20% or 30% below the market value. I'll give you a scenario. Let's say if the house in the market is 550, maybe if you're open to that kind of homes, you can buy it for like 470, 460. All right. Then before you move to the property, you just hire a contractor to take care of it. You put a new flooring, update the kitchen cabinets, maybe update the bathroom, paint it, and then you move to the house. And then probably in a year or so, the house, now you have 20% equity. I've had people done this multiple times. So I think that's a strategy that will save you, because when you're buying on the market, you're paying top dollar for the house because you're competing with everybody on the market, right? If you buy a house that's neglected, you can also, what you can do is, for example, let's say if you buy a house for 470, now you have to fix it, right? If you want to fix the carpet, if you want to fix the flooring, you want to fix the kitchen, the bathrooms, the paint, you can go to Home Depot, get a credit line with zero interest payment for 24 months.
Wow.
But Home Depot, Lowe's offers that as well. You don't pay a single interest for 24 months if you make it pay. I think if you purchase anything above $200 something, you can obviously verify that.
Like the renovations. If you
renovation, I mean the material, you don't pay anything.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I never thought about that.
Yeah, you only pay a labor. A labor for a house, it's basic work, maybe it costs you 5,000 to 6,000, 10,000 maybe. Now you have a nice house with less money out of pocket.
Yeah.
Maybe that would want to do that. Maybe.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, you should do that. If I was starting today, well, I would do that. It's different. It's different for someone with a big family. They have to move, but like it doesn't really cost you much to stay one more month as a rent. Let's say because normally when you get into a mortgage, you have grace period, 45 days grace period, right? stay one more year, one couple of months more in your rent place. You don't want to jump next day, move to the new house, you know?
Yeah.
Save up money and then remodel the house and move in there. One, your family gets to enjoy a fresh new house.
Yeah.
Because that paint, that flooring, that kitchen is gonna give the house a new life.
It's gonna give a new
It
life.
does. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Because American homes are like, it's
How about
bored.
the whole plumbing, electric,
Of course,
these type of things, you know?
you want that's why you do inspection. When you buy, you want to make sure that you know what to expect.
And if it's bad, can you put pressure on the seller to fix these things before you purchase it?
If you're a first-time home buyer, I would never recommend a house with have electric problem, because it may cost you a lot of money. You don't know what's the real problem.
Yeah.
If you have a plumbing problem, you may have to replumb the whole house. That's a big problem. If you have a roof problem, that's a big ticket. As a first-time home buyer looking into living, I don't recommend it. Investor can handle that. A home buyer first time, if you have a, for example, furnace will cost you 15,000. AC, the AC unit, if you have the ducts you have to put a new duct in the whole house. That's a big ticket, a 40,000, 30,000 ticket.
Yeah.
If you have septic problem, my own experience. So you need to careful the big ticket. That's how you do an inspection. When you buy a house, you inspect, you hire a professional inspector, it costs you money, pay the money, and hire an inspector. And if you have the inspectors themselves, they can give you an estimate what to expect, how much cost to expect. If you have that, I think it's a good strategy for first-time home buyer.
Strategy, yeah.
And then what you can do as well, sometime after you buy, you can also refinance. I mean, the BRRRR model, as an investor, so you can also use that model if you want to be an investor. You buy, you repair, refinance, repeat, the BRRRR model. You can do that as well as an investor. But for first-time home buyer as well, not a lot of people willing to do this, because it's construction is headache. If you're first-time home buyer, never bought a home, and you're even buying a house, have its own stress. But it's something you should think about.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, it's a good way to they call it sweat equity. You can even do it yourself. Paint, you can do it yourself.
Yeah,
flooring, if you could do.
I remember my dad the beginning when we painted the house like 2010. My brothers did it; they did terrible. So
yeah, well,
I wouldn't recommend painting the house yourself.
Yeah, me too.
I
would always hire someone,
Yeah.
because I believe in quality, and also I value what people do. I would not discount what they do. Say, I would do it. No, I'd rather have a painter, professional do it and do a good job than me messing it up and wasting the paint.
Exactly.
There's no point. I think that's a strategy, but there's a lot more into real estate.
What do you think about townhouses? Townhouses are cheaper. I remember you mentioned a point that they don't increase in equity as much. So would you ever encourage a townhouse at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even a condominium?
No, absolutely. Because it depends. If you can't qualify for a single family home, it's much better to purchase a condominium, even a townhouse, if you can afford a single family home. Absolutely. But of course, when it comes to appreciation, single family appreciates much higher.
Yeah.
It's always been the fact that single family homes appreciate because there's more demand for a single family home compared to townhouses or condominium. And another disadvantage of townhouse or condominium is an HOA.
Yeah.
Because HOAs has a lot of limits, and it's also it also could be very expensive. And sometimes there could be an assessment at the HOA, they want to change the roof. All of a sudden, they want to change something. They want to do some new work.
Just put that onto you right away.
HOA is probably going to double. So there are different kind of HOAs. Some HOAs don't even have, some townhouses don't even have an HOA. In that scenario, maybe you want to consider them, but anything is better than renting. If you are looking to live in one place for the next 7 years, I believe buying a home will you be in better position buying a home than renting. Well,
it depends where you are at, because I wouldn't recommend a customer to buy a home when they can barely afford it.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you want
to have enough reserves. Like, you don't want to just use every dollar you can to just go into the house. Some people are willing to do this, but I don't know.
Most people will have to do that. Sometimes
at some point, you think you have to?
Most people have to do. I mean, as a first-time home buyer.
Okay, let's say if you're buying a house, how much money would you want left over? Like
a lot. But I've my customers.
I've had customers too that would do this. Like, I look at their bank account. I know
the last money.
You know everything about them, right? Yeah. And like, they exhausted all their money, and then they'll go and get a gift from their family because that they're probably it's a gift. It's a gift.
No. Well, those are people who are self-employed and all that stuff. But I'm dealing with a customer right now actively. I'm not sharing their name or that. Recently bought a home in Canada, cash, well-off family, of course. and they're buying a home in Washington here, literally the down payment amount is just as much as they have on the stock. Like it's exhausting everything. But I'm sure, well-paid family,
Yeah, they're not
okay.
worried about
They'll
it.
be
Yeah,
okay,
they're not worried
They'll
about
be
it.
okay. But
For like a
sometimes,
W-2 family, maybe
yes.
it's different.
But sometimes people go through that, you have to exhaust everything to get into the house, and then you'll be okay,
Figure out
You'll be okay, it's still worth it.
It
It's
is still worth it,
it's
bitch,
still
man.
worth
It's
it.
tough life, man.
But
You have to look at groceries very tightly. No, we cannot eat out here.
Well, it's a good thing. Well, it's actually a good thing as well, because
It is
now
very
you
tough,
start
man.
budgeting.
Yeah,
It's a good thing as well, because I think home ownership worth it. It's something like
it's worth it. But I personally think if you have to budget every dollar, every penny, yeah, before you go to a drive-through, you got to look at your bank account. That's tough life, brother.
Well, you catch
That's a
up,
little tough,
at
you
least,
know.
not a lot of people have struggled in saving. American consumer economy, like where
There's
you're
actually
pressured to
I'm glad you
consume
brought this
everything.
up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there was actually a poll that went around. It was a guy who was interviewing people, and he would ask them, "How much money do you have in your bank account?"
Yeah.
And he would ask them, they would be like $1,000, $2,000,
Yeah.
500. And it's normal because a lot of people when they get the money, they immediately go buy a big car,
Yeah.
make all their payments. That's a very common thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people have no idea what to do with their money.
I would say majority of Americans, they live through their credit card, and they it looks like most people do not even understand what credit card is for. Most people think the credit card is to go to vacation, to spend it, buy stuff that they don't need, and then all their money's, their salary is spent on paying off the credit card. This is the problem, because credit cards are there to, transactional expense. Let's say if you want to go to groceries, you want to, get your gas, use your credit card. Don't use your debit card because security, all that stuff, right? You want to use your credit card. But credit card not to go on vacation, spend $20,000 and come back paying it
for fun. Exactly.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the American lifestyle. Consumer, they want us to buy every year new TV, every year new couch,
new laptop,
new laptop, new iPhone every year. And iPhone 16 is the bigger, the better, the newer.
And iPhone 17 comes out, and the iPhone 16 is trash.
It's trash. The bigger, the better, the best.
That's
how American consumerism is, unfortunately. And
how about you? Do you get every New Year iPhone? I feel like you do.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I don't, unless like something wrong with my iPhone. I don't just change it. Like, for example, the new iPhone, I didn't even bother looking at it. I didn't even bother looking what it looks like. What would I need it? I already have it. My iPhone is working well. It's more than I needed.
No, the battery sucks though.
No, if I fixed it.
You fixed it?
The battery problem was they told me I have to update the software, and I updated it. It worked.
It works fine.
Battery problem is gone now.
That's good. Now it's a great phone.
I think they wanted me to buy new phone. I think I got them back. I'm not buying. No. So yeah, it's the lifestyle, and you can see this when people are trying to buy a home on their credit cards. They have all kind of credit cards, and they feel like, hey, why would I pay it? They gave me 12 months, no interest, but it's damaging your credit. It's consumerism. It's a really big problem in this country.
Yeah.
People spend the money they don't have. Like someone making $100,000 annually spend 120 or 130.
Yeah.
It's going into even the country, America itself is in debt, $20 trillion. We're 20 trillion in debts.
I have a customer.
That's a culture.
I have a customer actually, who bought a house, and his house is increasing equity. From the outside of it as well. But every day he sees me, he complains. So he makes me almost feel bad. This is the other side of it.
What?
His mortgage is $5,000. I think he looks at me, he blames me for putting him into a $5,000 mortgage house. Which, brother, I only gave you the financing. You came to me. He was actually rushing.
I mean, he's an adult. You make your own decisions.
That's true. But the thing is, for him, I think he was relying, and this is actually a good point we can talk about. He's relying so much on his wife's income.
Okay.
And now his wife, I think she got pregnant or something, or she doesn't feel like working. Sometimes, women, they just, I don't feel like working. I need a break, So I think all that burden is on him. So he's in a little bit of a tough situation.
Yeah. Well, I feel him.
So would you ever, if you're looking to buy a house, would you rely on like your co-signer, a spouse, anyone else, or would you try to look at it from the perspective of make sure that I can afford this mortgage myself? Because if anything happens, it's gonna fall on you.
The first thing throughout my career, the first thing I tell people, hey, make sure don't just look at the property value, look at the mortgage payment, and are you comfortable with that mortgage payment for foreseeable future? Something happened, you have to That's very important.
That
A
is.
lot of people don't pay attention to it. Oh, I love the house. Only 500,000, 600,000. Look at the mortgage payments. That's what sticks with you. The home price goes up and down. Your mortgage payments, it doesn't go down unless you refinance. Unless you refinance, right? So you have to be comfortable with it. And if you can't afford it for some reason, if it's burden to you, rent it out and move somewhere else. You know, if you
That's a good idea.
yeah, I mean, if you can't afford it, you either sell it, move on, or rent it out and go somewhere you can afford. I mean, I'm sure this person right now, I don't know the situation, but my understanding, they're an adult when they.
I encourage that. Rent it out. Rent out his house.
Yeah, I mean, when they went through the process, though, they should know that you know, things happen. People lose their job. You know,
Some people don't look at the bigger picture, you know, they just look at what right now. I mean, anyone who bought a house, usually you got to look at the bigger picture, because if you're buying a house at a rate at 8%, 7%, you got to look at the bigger picture. The mortgage is high, but then if you refinance, play the refinance game. It's not going to be the same payment.
Yeah.
It starts to go down, rather than when you're a renter, your payments starts to go up as time goes on.
I agree with you, Dawood, but again, when you buy a home, it's totally different. People need to just change the perspective. Now you're living in your own home.
That's true.
You own the property. This is your own property, right? So every month when you make a payment, the balance that you have, the mortgage balance you have on your house is going down. You're actually playing against, you know, the amount of money going to the house. Your balance is declining every month. You're not paying the whole money to someone else. You're paying down to yourself as well. Well, that's another advantage. Two, the property is increasing in value over time. Right now, you have a bigger space. If you lived in 2-bedroom apartment right now, probably you're in 3-4-bedroom apartment, bigger space that costs money as well. You need to consider into that. Just because your mortgage payment is high, does not mean you should not be comparing with 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah,
it's a better living. It costs money. You know, if you drive an expensive car, it has luxury. It has all the comfort. It costs more money.
Yeah,
your monthly payment probably going to be $700, $800. If you drive a very old car, you can buy cash. You don't have a mortgage payment.
I want to give you the caveat to this, like how some people's opinion from the other side is, and I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Like what is that?
Some people will say, Brother Abdisa, life is all about rent. There's nothing that you truly own, because at the end of the day, we're going to our graves anyways. Everything you're going to only have for a short time until you have to give it away. Yeah. And that also applies for a house too. You will never actually own the house, because you can't take it with you to the grave. You're going to die eventually. Yeah. What's your opinion to this type of mindset that a lot of people have, that they will say, our house we will buy in Jannah?
Yeah, I mean, I respect that. That's what Islam teaches, of course. But also Islam also teaches that, you know, one of the three things that make Rasulullah said, one of the three things that makes a person happy: a good house, a good transportation, a good wife. So the three things the Prophet said is living in a good environment. There's nothing wrong with it. Islam does not, you know, Islam is against, for example, like making israf, like, you know, wasting something that above, you know.
You don't have to waste. That's a very good point, actually.
It's not, you can live within your means as long as you are, you know, you can, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to live good life. Allahumma, you know, even one of the very famous dua, Allahumma nas'aluka fi dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhab an-nar. So, oh Allah, give me a good life in this world, in the hereafter. So there's nothing wrong with wishing to live a good life in this world. You can use your wealth to help the poor, the needy people, right? So I think is a good point that we don't own anything, of course, because we don't live it in this world. I agree with that. But owning a house and renting a house is not the same. The amount of control that you have, because if you own a house, you can pass it to your family, your kids. Your kids, you're gonna pass it to them. If you're renting, you know, you pass this, God forbid something happens to you, your kids own nothing. If you pass this, yes, you're not taking it to the grave with you, but you're also not working for yourself. You're also working for your kids, for your generation, for your family, for you.
You left something.
You left something behind, and there's not
that they can benefit from.
I mean, you can't take. I mean, you can own a stock, you can own anything. You can't take it to grave. Of course, you only good deed to grave.
Yeah, so maybe you leaving your house with your kids, they can make dua for you in return.
Oh, that's the
Rather,
big investment.
if you give nothing to your kids, they'd be like, why should I make dua? Stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you,
Astaghfirullah.
Islam is not a hippie
But
kind
no,
of
but seriously though, your parents, if your kid is going to kind of thank you that you left them this house, that you left them.
No, not only thank you, is a responsibility as a father to leave your kids better place
Yeah.
than you find them, because I really want to do better for my
What
kids.
if the
Better.
other side of that is
Mhm.
a brother would say, I left my kids with a deen of Islam, and they dropped the mic.
Or, I mean, there's this, because you can't always win an argument. Some arguments, you just let it. Okay, say, okay, good. I agree to disagree.
I like the
Move on.
point you made though of living a better life and not wasting, because in an argument you can say is renting is considered kind of wasting. You know, you are kind of wasting your money.
Mhm.
Also, you're not wasting because you also need a place to live. But you living, if you improve your place of living, you're giving your family a better chance, a better life. You know,
Yeah.
and you also as a statistical perspective is that those who are owning a house, they are more contributive to the masjid because they're stationary rather
But the
than when they're
Sahabas used to
renting.
own their homes. So Sahabas used to own
But
their
they
homes
do
in
it by
Medina.
loans and mortgages and stuff
No,
like that.
they
It's
used
a
to be,
different time as well. You know,
people
it's
used
not the
to
same
borrow
time.
money. It was very back in normal, and back in the days, people used to borrow money to do businesses. Back in the days, during Rasulullah time, you cannot, interest haram, but owning a home is not haram.
That's true.
I don't know what does that mean. If I don't understand what does that mean. Renting a house was a new thing. Actually, people back in the days during Rasulullah and then used to own home. People used to own land.
Yeah.
Right now, we are in modern society where we have to be a landlord and tenants, and we have to rent, and then you can also buy. But I think it's Islamically a better thing to buy a home and then live with your family in a better condition, give them a good life. There's nothing wrong with it.
So I want to talk to you about the fatwa, you know, that actually so some people bring up. And I want to actually today we're going to talk about in more podcasts all the different you know, misconceptions people have about Islamic financing, right? Because this is what causes the Muslims to sometimes not buy homes because they don't have the education. And it also causes the Muslims to go to riba because they think it's the same.
Okay.
So just on to touch base on the fatwa, it says that, you know, in the case of a need to buy a home, you can go with guidance residential. Of course, a dire need is like the other Islamic financings are available, and then the other ones like the conventional banks, there's no way.
The Amja fatwa.
The Amja fatwa. What the case of durur, like, is it a case of a durur in what Amja means, like in terms of like buying a house? It's a need. Like there is a you have to kind of go and do it.
So let's define need though.
Yeah.
Right. Because a need is like you need a place to live. That's a need. It's not a dire need. It's a need. I mean, you can't live outside. You can rent. Okay, you can rent. You can also buy. I think renting this is my definition, my own opinion on this, and I'm taking from Amja fatwa. You need to rent a house. If you need a place to live, you need to rent a house. Another option is you need to buy a house. So 2 options. You can either take one of those. If you need to buy a home, you can go with guidance. If you don't want to buy a home, you can rent. That's another option, right? But I don't see the point that this is dire need. It's a need. It's not even dire. I mean, buying a home is a need. It's not a dire need.
It's not a dire need.
It's a need because you have it's to sustain as a sustenance. Like you need to eat, you need a place to stay, you need a shelter, you need a place to stay, you need to eat, you need to drink water to survive, right? So according to Amja fatwa, guidance residential is a permissible path for Muslim Americans to buy a home in case of a need. I think that anyone who wants to buy a home, who can afford, because a need is like, for example, if you don't have money, for example, let's say if you don't have money for down payment, you can rent. You don't want to break yourself and break someone or beg someone to buy a house. You can rent, right?
Yeah.
If you have a means to put 5% down, now you can afford the mortgage payment. That's a need. You can buy a home, now you can afford. And that's how I look at it. But they say they said in dire need, there's a different case. Dire need means you're breaking some kind of the Sharia principle. Means in dire, you are in dire situation. Daruri, you go to the daruri situation. Dire means like you are breaking some kind of law.
Yeah.
For example, like an example, let's say if you are starving somewhere, like if you're hungry, you have no food to eat, you can eat the pig, right? You can eat the
Pork, yeah.
pork, the meat of pig, right? Pork. That's a dire need. Like you're in a dire situation, you either gonna die or something. That's what they say. In case of dire need, you, instead of guidance is not available, you are in dire need. Now you don't do riba now if you go to bank.
Yeah.
In that scenario, instead of going to the bank, go to Islamic financing that claims to do Islamic financing. Somehow they have they establish an Islamic institution, Muslim work there, and they're giving you Islamic financing contract at least.
So the best that they could do.
Yeah, and even though the issue with that is what they stand because they're owned by a bank, the source of the money is a problem. These are the conditions, right? The issue with them. And also they had even some violation of the Murabaha contract itself.
Are you talking about the other Islamic
financing company? Yeah. That's why they call it in dire need. I'm giving you as Amja, what Amja's perspective of this.
I talked to someone from Amja.
Okay.
And you know, the way the Amja works is like they vote, right?
Yes.
They positioned as one of the individuals from Amja, they said that dire need and need really meant the same thing, that he was saying that it's durur, you know, it's a
dire need is, what does the word dire stand for?
Like a dire, like you're about to die if you don't have it, really.
Exactly.
Like it's an immediate.
That's like the pork.
Shelter is an immediate. Like it's what else is living outside?
I think it's a need. Is not a dire need. It's a need.
Well, living outside is
no, because you can rent. Like you can.
So
rent.
Buying a home, it's
a dire. It's a need. It's not
a
dire.
need. It's not a dire need.
It's a need. Like you need to buy a home. Like you have two options. I told you, you can either buy or can rent. That's a need because shelter is a need.
Yeah.
Then going to a bank, like if you really like you have no option, Islamic financing declined you, you're gonna be outside. You cannot rent a house. The only option is to buy. I think that's a dire need. Even with you, if you go with the bank, Allahu Alam. This is my because you really like it's, according to Islam. If a kind of life in this situation, you have to save your family. If you do something that is forbidden, that's haram, Allah will forgive you. You know, that's the idea. You know, you're trying to save your family life. You're trying to, does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a dire need. But buying a home is not dire need. I think it's a need.
From your opinion, why do you think Islamic financing, maybe let's say guidance residential, is the best approach to getting a mortgage for a Muslim? What do you think separates guidance from anywhere else?
So what separates guidance is, I think it's value when it's been from establishment, to be honest with you. I really believe that the way guidance is established, the way the company is structured, and the reason the company was established because is not, they did not put guidance founders, they did not put profit first when they started. They said, hey, there's a lot of Muslim Americans here and they want to buy a home. And we need to make a fundamental change on the mortgage industry in the Muslim American, the way Muslim Americans buy a home, right? They could have just said, you know what, we're going to open an Islamic bank and, you know, we're going to just do banking here, Islamic financing on this side. That's an easier way, right? But they said, hey, we want to be an authentic as well. Because from the start, they took 3 years to organize, you know, the ulamas around the world in Islamic financing, renowned scholars. They did a 3 years of study, as you know. That shows you the companies, they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying.
They value, they really, yeah, exactly. And also who established it, who's behind the companies, another, what makes Guidance different. It's Dr. Hamoud, the founder of this company. He's actually a person who's been involved in Islamic financing around the world for a long time. They have that value background. And they say, hey, when they start as well, they want to provide this product around the country as well. Muslims are not only in California, they're not in Michigan, they're not just in Virginia, they're everywhere. So they had to go up against Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae to make sure they accept the Musharaka of Tanaqsa contract. It's another big thing that makes Guidance different, honestly. And then the company being refusing to be a bank itself, it shows you like they want to be a solution, not part of the problem. Yeah. This is a unique, and the Musharaka contract is the most difficult Islamic financing program. As a bank, is the most riskier for you because bank will go onto the property, on the property. Musharaka contract, even around the world in Malaysia and different Muslim world, most banks don't even practice Musharaka contract because it's so risky. Because it's when you own an asset, you're risking everything. That's the reason they don't do Musharaka contract. But Guidance chose Musharaka contract as its only way to provide financing. And this shows you that the company is really a genuine.
They tried their best, exactly.
Honestly, I really believe
they did their
best solution in this country for Muslim Americans to have a peace of mind and going Islamic financing, at least to have that peace of mind. at least to say that, you know, they did the best.
Yeah.
Compare that with other alternative there. There's no emphasis was done to the Sharia compliance. It's more about, you know what, it's Islamic, just move on, go with it, because it's owned by a bank. When you own by a bank, you have no control mass over to say on Islamic financing. You have no control on what's the source of your money. That's another challenge that I see on other Islamic financing companies. And the program they do as well. It's Murabaha contract. Murabaha contract is the easiest way to do. And it's not taken to be the most authentic Islamic financing that, you know, we used to practice on early days of Islam. It's okay, the Murabaha contract is as permissible, sound good, but it has a lot of challenge in the US. That's one of the reasons guidance is the best option. And that's why, alhamdulillah, the name itself, obviously, it carries a lot of weight. I think that's the reason.
Yeah. And for us too, as professionals working here, we always start with the value of what guidance brings to customers. Absolutely. You know, we will always start first with the value that no matter where you look, guidance is literally is the most Sharia compliant, because the key thing is not being a bank. You know, the other day when I go to like food places that have the non-Muslim food places that have pork and stuff like this, you know, and even if they say that they're halal, how can I really believe that they're halal when I see the stove, they're cooking pork and chicken in the same place? Absolutely. You know, so for all the other Islamic financings that say that they're halal, they also are mixing in with riba. You know, how can you really say that this is halal when it's a bank? You know,
that's a very good point. So I've had actually this experience, a customer telling me, it's one of the Islamic financing, like, you know, not guidance, other companies. A customer did not qualify for residential conventional financing, and then to tell them, okay, by the way, we also have FHA, but this one is, you know, we're not sure about, it's not Islamic, you know. They sell both in the same place. So which is wrong, because I think that you really put it in a best analogy. Guidance, you know, say, hey, we want to help those Muslims, a lot of Muslims here, those Muslims who align their value with us. Company has its, you know, its value, right? Every company established on an idea. That idea is a value. Hey, this is me. This is what I want to achieve. And those Muslims who want to actually take this seriously, that interest is a very serious, something that's really big, hold big weight in Islam, be something forbidden, right? Those people who want to avoid that, guidance, share your value. Yeah. And then we're here to provide a solution for that. That's what guidance really stands for. Other, you know, banks, you know, few banks in Michigan and in Chicago, they decided to, you know what, there's a lot of Muslims here, and, you know, it looks like they need a mortgage. Why don't we give them Islamic mortgage? There you go. Let's open a branch. I mean, you can compare that. I think it's different. It's very different. It's, you know, it's very clear difference. Well, like, because it's established, hey, we want to help Muslim Americans. We're not going to open a bank. This is how we're going to help them. We're going to make it authentic. This Musharaka contract, we're not going to waiver Musharaka, other programs. This is the best way. Let's do it.
I just want to touch base on
the difference.
Yeah.
I hope the audience looks at it. There's a big difference.
Exactly. There's a big difference. And I just want to touch base that a lot of audience needs to know when it comes to Islamic financing that works with a bank is that it's the key thing that makes Islamic financing permissible is the risk ownership part. You cannot sell something in which you do not own, and obviously you cannot sell money for more money because this is riba. The banks, it's illegal for them to own property. Banks can never own property. So you have to ask yourself,
according to the US law.
According to the US law, there's a code on this, and maybe we can bring it up.
Unless they had to repossess it from the borrower who does not pay the mortgage payment, they cannot buy a home. Exactly. They cannot go in the free market and buy a home. Yeah, they're not a business of buying.
If banks could do that, then they'll buy every single thing.
House.
Right?
Why would they buy a home for you?
Yeah, exactly.
They can rent it to you.
Yeah, you become a tenant. We'll be tenants to every bank. You know,
that's the biggest challenge, because they are banks. You know, they're trying to, they have their own explanation.
I think that was very good.
We wrap it up. Yeah. So, guidance Islamic financing program is called Musharaka, which is translated to partnership or co-ownership contract. The way it works is Musharaka as a partnership means two entities come together and buy a property. Yep. In this case, guidance and the customer. Yep. They buy the property. Let's say, easy simplification. Let's say the property price is 100,000. right? So guidance brings, let's say customer brings 20% down.
Mhm.
That's $20,000.
Mhm.
Guidance brings 80,000. That would be 80%.
Yeah.
And we enter into a relationship or partnership of 20% ownership, co-ownership of the property.
Yeah.
And then every month when you make a payment, you buy a share of guidance to eventually own it, right? At the same time, of course, you have to pay guidance for using the property. It's called a profit payment or utilization payment. And what makes it different, since guidance own the property with you, they come with a lot of benefits for you as a consumer,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So you have a co-ownership program. That's very important. It's halal. Number two is the risk sharing, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's risk sharing because we own the property with you. Guidance is the only bank, the only Islamic financing institution or mortgage institution in the US that actually shares the risk with you, because the program is what? Musharaka. Musharaka, the idea is sharing risk and ownership of the property together. It's the key part, inshallah.
I also want to add to this. Outside of the financial structure that we provide, guidance is the only Islamic financing in the U.S. that is owned by Muslims, and almost every single account executive you talk to is a Muslim.
Everybody.
Also, guidance does a lot in terms of like the community. We go to a lot of events. We sponsor the events and we give back to the local masajids.
Every year up to 1.5 million to 2 million every year giving back to the community.
That's big numbers.
Yeah.
Does the other Islamic financings do this?
That's a question for you to answer.